Hello crafty friends, welcome to day 3 of Watercolour Week. Today we'll be creating our clean and simple watercolour cards using the masking, splattering and wet on dry techniques. The first thing I did today was make some masks by die cutting circles from several sticky notes. These sticky notes are sticky over about 80% of their backs, so they make great masks. They're sticky enough to properly stick down, but not so sticky that they'll damage the paper. Once I'd cut all my circles, I went about sticking them to my watercolour paper. I arranged them to give me a good distribution of the different sizes. I planned to cut this panel down into different shapes, so I wanted to make sure that there were small, medium and large circles over the whole piece. After all the circles were positioned, I began splattering on some paint. I used a fairly neutral colour palette of indigo, brown, grey and yellow ochre. This is one of my favourite colour combinations. It's very earthy and very calming. First I splattered on the indigo using a small brush and gentle taps to create small splats. Then I added the other colours. I didn't dry the paint in between each splattering because I didn't mind the colours mixing and mingling a bit. Also, the splats were very small, so I wasn't worried about them seeping under or through the masks. Once I'd spattered all the colours though, I did bring in my hairdryer, and this had the added bonus of removing the masks from the paper for me. My idea for this card was to have large circles of solid colour in the foreground with small splatters in the background. That's why I did the masking and splattering first. Whatever you mask will look as if it's in the foreground, and whatever you don't mask will look as if it's in the background. And that's what I ended up with. Large spatter-free circles in the foreground with tiny splatters that look as if they're behind them. To paint my large circles, I took each colour and used the wet on dry technique to fill in the voids left by my masks. To achieve the solid look that I wanted, I loaded my brush with runny paint and painted the outside of the circle and then quickly filled in the middle. I worked quickly because I didn't want the outline paint to start drying. To get the outline and the middle to blend nicely, both had to be wet. If you add wet paint onto dry paint, you get hard lines, which I didn't want today. Getting all my paints ready to go before I started painting the circles was what allowed me to work quickly and prevent those hard lines from forming. In the next 2 videos, I'll be doing a glazing technique, which is where you deliberately add wet paint onto dry paint. But as I say, that wasn't the look I was going for today. Just as I distributed the different sizes of circles around the panel, I also distributed the different colours around the panel, so that when I cut it down into the shapes that I cut it down into, I'd have a good range of colours on each piece. When it comes to brush strokes, I think stroke is the operative word. With watercolour, unlike oils and acrylics, you're using very runny paint and fairly delicate brushes, and the painting motion is usually quite light-handed. A gentle stroke is what you need, rather than a heavier dragging or pushing or scrubbing. So, do you use watercolours in your card making, whether that's clean or simple cards or more ornate cards? Do leave a comment with any tips or hacks that you have so we can all have a read and learn from them. I've been using watercolours in my card making for longer than any other technique, I think. It's something I come back to time and time again. I love the finished look, but I also love the process. Watching watercolours mix and mingle on the page is absolutely magical. After I finished painting my large circles, I realised that I could squeeze in some smaller circles in the voids that had formed naturally between the splatters. So I took some of the grey paint and added teeny tiny circles here and there to increase the variation and visual interest. In the end, I made 2 cards from this panel. For the first, I simply cut a strip from one of the long sides, making sure to get a good distribution of different sizes and different colours of circles on my strip. Then I matted it on some ivory cardstock and added it to a linen textured card blank. For my sentiment, I die cut the word thanks from some black glitter card and layered it on top of a thin strip of vellum that I'd already adhered to my panel with double-sided tape. I also added a smattering of silver gems for sparkle and shine. For the second card, I die cut 3 different tag shapes from the panel and arranged them in a diagonal design. Again, I cut the sentiment from black glitter card and added some gems. And that's it, that's day 3 of watercolour week done. I hope you've enjoyed the video so far. If you have, please do leave a comment, like and subscribe, all that good stuff. And I will see you back here tomorrow for day 4 and the glazing technique. Thanks for watching, bye for now.